everyone, it's Rowan here. Welcome back to the channel. With summer over and school in full swing, I thought I'd share some of the cool apps that I'm using on my MacBook. I did a similar video for my iPhone, which you can find linked up somewhere over here. But today we're going to be focusing on Mac apps that help you stay productive, get more done, and just make your Mac a lot more fun to use. And the best part? All of these are completely free. First up, we have Raycast, and I think it's an app that everybody should install. If you're not familiar, Raycast is actually a replacement for Spotlight. So here I can look up all the files that I have in my system, but then launch apps directly from Raycast. And then it steps things up with things like window management and clipboard history. So for example, here I can move this window to the left and then pop something up like Safari and move that over to the right. And then go explore my clipboard history so I can see what I've been copying and pasting throughout my system. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Raycast actually has a massive community that makes all sorts of plugins. So take for instance this color picker that I have here, where now I can sample and it actually saves that color directly to my clipboard. And then we have plugins like Download Video that allow me to download YouTube videos directly to my system without needing a third-party site. And then plugins like Hide All My Apps that, as the name explains, hides all of my apps with one command. The best part is that all of this is completely free, but they do have a pro subscription that gets you access to features like Cloud Sync, custom window layouts, and even the use of the built-in AI integrations so you don't have to use a separate app for things like Cloud or ChatGPT. Now, pretty much every new MacBook comes with a cutout, and it seems like a waste of space, but the good folks over at Boring Notch have figured out a way to make that cutout a bit more useful. So if I take my cursor and hover over the notch, you can see a bunch of different widgets. So on the left, I have my music, and then on the right, I have a calendar with my upcoming events. And then if I hit the next tab, you can see an airdrop spot as well as a shelf for files. Plus, Boring Notch is super customizable. So if I go over to the settings here, I can look at all the different settings that I might want to change, including the ability to set a toggled shortcut. But I think the best part is that Boring Notch is completely open source, which means you can develop your own extensions and integrate them in. Next up, we have Hand Mirror. Now, tell me if this is you. You join a meeting, get dropped right in, only to realize there's a huge mess behind you. And by then, it's too late and everyone's seen it. Hand Mirror aims to fix that by giving you a quick preview before you join. So if I go over to my menu bar and click the Hand Mirror icon, I can see a quick preview of my camera and make sure there's no mess behind me, as well as make some lighting adjustments if I need them. And there's plenty to customize. So if I go over to the settings, I can see here I can assign a keyboard shortcut or even change the icon on the menu bar. And in the Hand Mirror Plus, I get features like reactions and even a mic check to check my audio levels. It's a pretty simple idea, but helps to avoid some awkward moments. Next up, we have Dropover. That's a really simple utility for moving files across your system. And I can't tell you how much this has come clutch. With Dropover, I simply select the files that I need. So for example, these ones, and then shake my mouse and a little shelf pops up. And then I can go over to another folder and select some more photos and drop those onto the shelf as well. And finally, when I'm ready, I can just select the folder that I need in this case, and then drop those files directly into the spot where they should go. And Dropover comes with some pretty handy sharing features. So I can select my files, and then in the menu here, I can see all the different options. So I can airdrop it, I can mail the files, or even create a iCloud link if I need to send larger files. Now, speaking of file sharing, there's a really great app called LocalSend that makes it a lot easier to send files locally. Now, most of the time, you're probably going to use AirDrop because of how seamlessly it works between your iPhone, your Mac, and even your iPad. But LocalSend is even more convenient because it works across all platforms. That includes Android and Windows. If you take a look here, I have LocalSend open and it assigns each device a unique name. And if I go over to the Send tab here, you'll notice my iPhone, which is also on the same network, also gets a unique name. And so all I have to do is select folder, and then I can select the folder that we created earlier, open it up, and you can see all of the attachments, and then click on my phone to start the transfer. Now on my phone, I see an accept or decline button. So I'm going to hit accept here. and you can see sort of all the files as they're transferring. And it feels just like AirDrop without being locked into the Apple ecosystem. It's actually funny, just the other day I was over at a friend's house and he had a PC and he wanted to transfer me a bunch of photos. So we actually used LocalSend to move those photos from his computer over to my iPhone. And also because it's happening over the local network, it makes those transfer speeds a lot faster. Another app that I've been really liking is Hidden Bar. And if you're anything like me, you'll have a bunch of windows and apps open, and then the app icons start to show up at the top, and soon enough, it's a cluttered mess. Hidden Bar aims to solve that by collapsing my app icons into a hidden shelf that when expanded, I can grab what I need. So if I head over to the taskbar and I click on this arrow, it'll expand to show all of my app icons. Now, if there's some of them that I'd like to keep, I can hold the command key and then just move them beyond this line, and those will be always visible. If you do want to take things a bit further, I'd recommend checking out an app called Bartender that offers more control and customization, but for something that's lightweight and free, Hidden Bar definitely does the trick. Now, Stats is a really great app to keep an eye on your Mac's performance. We all know that Apple Silicon is super powerful and efficient. Even in these MacBook Airs, it just whizzes through video editing, browsing, and so much more. But sometimes it's good to see where performance is at. So you can see up in the menu bar, I have my stats. So over here, I have the CPU and I can see its utilization. Next to that, I can see the RAM and see what apps are consuming how much memory. After that, I have temperatures that show me how hot my system is getting. And then next to that, I have the network activity that sees what's downloading and what apps are using the internet. And Stats is fully customizable. So if I hit the settings button here, I can see all the different options. And then I can click something like the disk and then click this module over here. And you can see that it pops up right away, and then customize it to my liking. This has been super useful day to day because I could be video editing and have a bunch of browser windows open, and I can see the exact moment that my Mac is going to throttle. This next app is super helpful if you're studying abroad, traveling, or just have friends in different time zones, and it's called Clocker. I've been in plenty of situations where I've been in a different time zone and want to call someone back home, and Googling isn't always the most convenient, but Clocker makes that available directly in my menu bar. So if you go over to the menu bar and you click this clock icon, you can see the different time zones that I have set up. So you can see here in Toronto, it's 2:05 p.m. And then in California, it's 11:05 a.m. And then in India, it's 11:36 p.m. And if I click the scroller here and I drag it, you can see that the times instantly update. Below that, they've also added a calendar integration so you can see your upcoming events. It's a small utility that's super handy for coordinating with people across different time zones. Another app that I keep coming back to is Caffeine, and it's a pretty simple app for keeping your Mac awake for as long as you need without it falling asleep. I found this particularly useful for when I want to keep my Mac awake during filming or product shots. So if you go up to the top and click this teacup, it'll actually activate Caffeine and then your machine won't fall asleep. But Caffeine is also great for other situations like presentations, long study sessions, or anytime you need your notes open or to reference something without your Mac falling asleep. Next up, we have AlDente, and if you know anything about Mac, battery replacements aren't necessarily cheap, so it's important to keep your battery at the top performance. Now, on your iPhone, you can go to the battery menu and set the maximum capacity. AlDente brings that functionality to the Mac. So if I click on the icon up here, I can see that my limit is currently 100%, and I can use the slider down here to move it to about 80%, which should help to extend the life of my battery. And with something like Apple Silicon, you'll barely notice that 20% capacity is missing, but your battery will thank you for it in the long run. The next app is AppCleaner, and it's perfect for removing unwanted apps completely from your system. Now, the nice thing about macOS is that most apps are self-contained, which means when you drag them to the trash, they technically get deleted. But in reality, some apps leave extras behind like settings, caches, and even support folders that just sit on your drive. AppCleaner makes all of that super easy to remove. So here you can see I have an area to drop an app. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my applications and say, for example, I don't want Figma anymore. I can drag that in. And you can see here, it grabs the app, but then all these supporting files that are associated with it. And then with one button, I can remove everything. Now, alternatively, you can click the list view and it'll give you a list of all the apps that you currently have installed. And by simply just clicking one, it'll give you a list of all the files that it currently has. And again, you can remove it with one button. It's a great way to keep your Mac clutter-free without having to dive through a bunch of different folders. Next up, we have Rectangle. Now, earlier we mentioned that Raycast has some basic window management built in, but Rectangle takes that and allows you to do more complex layouts. So you can see here, I have a bunch of different windows open, and if I click the rectangle icon, I can see all of my different layout options. And then beside each one, I have their corresponding shortcut. So for this one, I can go to the first third, and then this one I can put to the center third, and then this one I can put to the last third. And then for the Safari window, I might want to maximize this in this case. So it's really simple and intuitive. It's actually been super useful to have because I can set up the layout exactly the way that I want across different desktops. Finally, one of my favorite time saver apps is Homebrew, and more specifically a feature called Cask. Homebrew itself is a package manager. It's just a tool for installing things through the terminal. Now, I know the terminal is not meant for everyone, but stick with me here. Normally, when you're installing an app, you have to download a file, run it, then hit a bunch of next buttons, and finally it's installed. With Cask, you type out a single command and the app installs automatically. No extra clicks and no pesky pop-ups. Let me show you how easy it is. So say, for example, I wanted to install Telegram. So I bring up my terminal here, I type in brew install -- cask Telegram, and you can see here it's instantly installing Telegram. Now I just have to wait. It's going to download the Telegram app and it's done. Now, I've actually found Cask to be especially useful when I want to install a bunch of different apps on a new machine. So for example, for this MacBook Air, I have a command that's ready to go. And you can see here, it can automatically install all of these apps in one go. And Cask's library is huge, so you'll definitely find all the popular apps, and they're kept up to date almost every day. Oh, and by the way, the terminal app I'm using isn't the default one. It's an app called Warp, and it's really great because of how customizable it is and how much more powerful it is over the default one. I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to check that out. And that's kind of my list for my favorite Mac apps. All of these apps help you stay organized, speed up your workflow, or just make your Mac a lot more fun to use. And I think the best part is that all of them are completely free. If you found an app on my list useful, be sure to give it a like. And if you have your own app recommendations, I'd love to hear about them in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.